So, whether you're a seasoned gardener or someone who's just picked up a spade for the first time, you know how frustrating certain mistakes can be. Today, I've picked out 6 common gardening mistakes and ones I've made myself to help you avoid the same pitfalls. And let me tell you, one of them even cost me some crops. But before we get onto that, let's take a look at the most important thing in gardening. Arguably, as we've all seen this year, patience is definitely one of the most important things to have in gardening. It's been easy to get frustrated and annoyed sometimes this year, especially when we do everything we can to care for our plants, just for the weather or a disease to come through and destroy it all. But keep at it and you'll soon see your efforts pay off, whether it be through an amazing flower display or some cucumbers just like this and tomatoes. It's all worth it. Just make sure that even if that one beetroot seedling is nibbled by a slug, you don't give in and you get another one planted and it'll be even better than the first. For me, personally, one of the things which has really struggled this year has been the dwarf French beans, but let me know in the comments what struggled for you. Another one which often catches people out is being able to identify and tackle certain pests such as these aphids. Normally you'll find them on beans, so a really simple way to deal with them is to mix about 1 tablespoon of washing up liquid, any will do, to 1 litre of rainwater. Once you've done this, you can then just lightly spray all your plants every week or so, and soon you'll have the problem right under control. For me personally, I don't tend to spray all my aphids around the garden off because they are vital food supplies for insects like ladybirds and hoverfly, but I just try and do it to help keep the numbers down because sometimes they can be a bit more annoying than you want them to be. Right, who doesn't love a good slug? How many plants have I lost this year from them? Well, it's definitely more than the number of things I have. Just when you can, preferably in the early morning or late at night when it's still damp, come out with a bucket and spade and collect them up. Then make sure to put them somewhere far away from your plants. It's such a simple one to do, but so important. Sometimes being able to judge when your plants need water can be a tricky one, especially if you're just doing this by looking at the top layer of the soil. The thing you have to remember is that the roots go down into the ground. So if the top layer is damp but below is bone dry, your plants will start to struggle. What I like to do is to just make a small hole with my finger and feel how damp the soil is, about 30 to 40 mil down. This way I know that the water is definitely getting through and to the roots. Often it's not that people water too much, it's that they water too little. Rather than giving plants a little every day, give them a much bigger drink every several days to ensure that the water really gets into the soil. Let's talk about pruning now. There's an unspoken rule about this in gardening, which we'll get onto now, but before that, let's take a look at these tomato plants. If you want a constant supply of tomatoes, then just regularly, every so often, giving them a prune not only lets more light in, letting the tomatoes ripen quicker, but also helps to increase airflow amongst them, reducing the chances of any diseases, which obviously no one wants. Now, back to that unspoken rule. When it comes to tidying up plants in general, a good rule of thumb to go by is to never take more than 1/3 of the plant off, because this can sometimes cause the plant to go into almost a shock and potentially stunt the regrowth. But by taking off older branches every so often, not only helps to keep the plant looking tidy, but it will also encourage new young shoots to come through too. While we're on it, I thought I'd just mention the importance of checking which branch you're cutting, because I made quite a stupid mistake, as you can see here, cutting a branch with about 8 tomatoes on, but obviously this isn't too much of a problem because you can always put these on a windowsill next to some ripe tomatoes and that'll encourage the others to ripen themselves. The next one is labelling. Oh my gosh, how many times have I forgotten to do this? You know, sometimes you just forget how important it actually is, especially with seeds you've just sown. About 3 weeks ago, I sowed a line of spinach beet, and typically I did forget to label it, so now I'm addressing that. If you've got wooden labelling stakes like this, I tend to write it in pencil just in case I want to change it the following season. It takes 2 minutes of your time, but saves you a lot of guesswork in the future. Now, there's a reason why they say once your seeds have germinated, try and thin them out to a reasonable distance, because overcrowding is a problem I had with these lettuces, which we did take out in the last video. There'll be a link to that in the description. And while it didn't affect the lettuces themselves, it affected what was around them. These beetroots were basically engulfed by the wall, so because of their limited light, their growth was stunted quite a bit. It's the same with these spring onions. Luckily, they're now starting to green up a bit, but whenever you're sowing new lines of plants, such as lettuce, radishes or carrots, less can be more sometimes, so give it a go and try and stop overcrowding. And there we have it, 6 common gardening mistakes that are really easy to avoid. Hopefully this video was useful for you. If it was, why not consider subscribing to the channel to discover new ways to improve your garden and yield. And also, if you want to find out about how you can improve your soil further to further improve your harvests, why not click here to find out.